Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2112 Growth Forum, where we discuss the strategies and tactics which drive business growth. Today, we're talking about what I feel is probably one of the most fundamental shifts in marketing over the last 12, 24 months. I am referring to how to make your brand visible in the age of AI. I'm joined by two absolute experts in the field today, Anthony and Oliver. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Unfortunately, Jana can't join us, but we're in safe hands. So before I ask you guys for quick intros, I want to run our first poll of the day to gauge where our audience is up to in terms of their search strategy. So the question should appear on the screen now, which is, have you changed how you approach search in the last 12 months? So if the audience would be kind enough to give us their answers, let's go to intros. So Anthony, can I start with you? Brief intro.
Thank you very much, Henry. So hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Barone, co-founder and managing director of StudioHawk UK. We're an SEO-only agency that helps brands and B2B businesses get to the top of Google and now AI search. Based in Shoreditch, but we're a global agency with offices in Melbourne, Sydney, London, and Atlanta with over 100 specialists worldwide.
Nice. Great to have you here, Anthony. And Oliver, over to you.
Right. So I'm the co-founder of a platform called HeyAmos, HeyAmos.com. We are an action-oriented GEO platform that helps brands get more business out of AI search in an easy way. We are HQ in Singapore, but we are global in 12 countries at the moment, including UK as well. So hello, everyone, and thanks for joining.
Nice. Great to have you here, Oliver. So the first question I want to throw out is to you, Anthony. I just want to define the terms we're talking about today because it's kind of a minefield. It's full of jargon, right? I've heard it described as AEO, GEO. We've got obviously SEO. How would you describe and define the terms? Can we start there?
I would say, so what we've been looking at is Google has used GEO or AEO, but fundamentally AI search. That's all encompassing. SEO is still fundamental. Your website is still your platform, your soapbox that you can control, you own, that you can showcase your products, showcase your brand, your skills, your authority, and build your topical authority on certain topics, and something that you actually build equity in rather than paid ads, which is renting visibility. So SEO is still the main term. It's just everyone's connected SEO with Google, which, they're a monopoly, so it makes sense. But AI search is now encompassing AI overviews, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, all these different types of platforms where people are now searching in different ways. So we use AI search. I would just say AI search, but SEO is still fundamental because that is the backbone to improve your website. And if you don't have that website, these LLMs have got nothing to crawl. That's so there's nothing. If you don't do SEO, you got no chance of getting on AI search anyway. So yeah, that's the long and the short of it at this stage.
It's funny you say that because one of the questions I got recently from a client who we said we'd rebranded them. We said, look, next step, redo your website. And he said, well, do I need a website anymore? Because no one visits websites anymore. So, I mean, we're jumping ahead, but how would you answer that?
If people don't visit websites anymore, I think Google will be out of money. I think there'd be a big problem. I think all of us would be out. I think that's a lot of LinkedIn posts that have been read and a failure to understand how it actually all works. Your website is still important because if you're an e-commerce brand and you don't want to give margins away to the retailers and you don't want to give all your profits away to Google paid ads, even with Google paid ads, you still got to send them to a website. You still got to send them somewhere. So your website is still fundamental because it's something that you can own and control. But your website might mean different things to different businesses. An e-commerce brand, yeah, sure, website is critical unless they don't really care about their website and they put everything through retailers, which that's a business decision. Or they're a B2B business where they don't really care about their website because their business is set up in a way where they get a lot of referrals or they do direct mail or billboards. It just depends on how the business is set up. But everyone should theoretically have a website because it's an opportunity for you to build your authority online, have your own soapbox, have your own place. If ads got shut off tomorrow, if Meta got shut off tomorrow, if they stop sending the mail out tomorrow, your website's still an option for you to market yourself, find people, and shout out about what you sell and the services you offer. So yeah, maybe for their business, the website, maybe, they're not finding the right people to use a website, but website is still fundamental as a business and an opportunity for you to use it as you want.
So
Yeah.
I totally agree. Websites are still important, right? I think it's more like the role of the website, which is shifting. So if we take buying software, for example, right? Roughly what everyone does when they buy software is they do a lot of research based on their criteria, what they need to buy, what problem do they need to solve. And then based on all that research, they come up with a short list. And then let's say top 3 brands, vendors, they check those further, maybe take a demo and then decide what to buy. That's roughly how people buy software. That hasn't changed. What has changed is that it used to be, so when I was a tech CMO for a number of years, I would send my intern out to do the research phase. And then that person would Google, read blog posts, visit a lot of websites, try to decipher a lot of fluffy language, and then come up with a short list, right? The way that practically every B2B buyer does it now is they ask an LLM to help them with the short list, right? It's because it's just easier and you get to the same answer a lot faster, right? So your customer is actually not visiting your website when they're doing it, but an AI agent is reading your website. So it means you need to also start writing content for the machine. And then when they do come to book a demo or, even buy your product directly, they will still do that through the website as of today. In 10 years' time, maybe an agent is doing that part as well, but the agent still needs to find information about your brand somewhere.
Yeah. And fundamentally, has it changed how an LLM like ChatGPT would read your website versus how Google continues or historically reads your website? Do you when you talk about, it's always a balance, isn't it? Writing for the human visitor versus writing for the robot. Now it's almost like Google had the monopoly. Now we're writing for multiple robots. What does that mean in terms of kind of web content and how you structure things?
So I think there have been a lot of silly things said about this. So let me get some of those out of the way. Anthony, I'm sure you will agree. One of those very silly things is LLMs.txt, that you need one of those files to somehow communicate magically with the agents. There's no evidence that that works, right? If a consultant is trying to sell you this, walk the other way. Hopefully, Anthony, you're not doing this or I'm in trouble.
You tried to sell me it the other day, but no, I'm joking.
No,
Well, that's what marketers do. And
Yeah,
that's where the businesses that's where the businesses need to educate themselves to understand what's going on, because marketers are going to market. They're going to come up with new acronyms, new stuff to then try and sell new things. So I agree with Oliver. We've seen LLMs.txt. We've seen even Shopify put out AgentsMD, which is basically the same thing as a robots text file. But because a lot of businesses don't have that marketing understanding, they can throw out these terms going, I need that. Because guess what? FOMO, and people see it on LinkedIn. And no one wants to feel like they've left behind. No one wants to feel like they're an idiot. And especially in this fast-changing world, oh man, I need that TXT. It's like, you barely have a functioning website.
There is one
priorities.
fundamental difference, though, that I think everyone needs to kind of grasp at a basic level. And it's that the classic search algorithm, Google, takes the keyword that you search for and matches that to pages that also contain those keywords, essentially, right? And then if you have a lot of good links pointing to that page as well, it will rank higher. I'm simplifying a lot, right? And so it's quite kind of one-to-one keyword search and then a page with that keyword. So the way LLMs look for information is it's not keyword based in the same way at all. So which means that if you're asking for best accounting software for small businesses, right? And it checks your website, it's not looking for a page that has best accounting software as a keyword everywhere, right? It's going to go read your about page. It's going to read your home page. It's going to go read your reviews on Trustpilot to see if small businesses are reviewing you and actually think that way, right? So it will get much more of a 360 picture of your brand, which means it's less about optimizing for specific keywords, and it's more about putting out a consistent message of who you are, what you do, who you do it for.
And how How much has changed from that? Because I was always of the understanding, in terms of Google, in terms of classic SEO, that, you had on page, off page. It was kind of your website, but also how you appeared across the internet in terms of mainly links from reputable websites. A link from the BBC, for example, is extremely good reference to your website. It shows credibility, so on and so forth. How have it sounds quite similar to me in a lot of ways. Like, has much fundamentally changed in what you need to do?
Fundamentally, no. Not I know people are going to like to hear that. But as the years go on, we're seeing, as Oliver mentioned, brand mentions, building up your authority, building up those stories, doing digital PR, for example. So traditional link building, yeah, still works. Doing traditional PR, getting placements, yes, 100%. But now with LLMs coming in and Google AI mode, and as the way of searching shifts, so Google's changed the search box. A lot of people, like, we're in marketing, so we're probably power users when it comes to the LLMs. But I've seen where, like, I met a guy in Weymouth, he's 65 years old, using Copilot to, like, research stuff. So it's starting to permeate through the culture, but they're going to be using it differently to than what we use it. So what we're finding is that quality content still matters. But for an e-commerce brand, you can't just be too fluffy, because you need to be descriptive. You need to talk about your product features, who's it good for, who's it not good for. Because when you think about people actually searching on a LLM, right, they're not just typing in red dresses. They're going to be typing in, I'm 5 foot whatever, and I need a red dress for this specific event, and here's my budget. So the instead of just being a keyword, the prompt or the phrase is much longer now. And then what they do is basically a query fan out. They'll chop that down into many different searches, basically crawl the internet, crawl the websites, and then serve you back that answer in a conversational way. And then you'll get the products, and they'll describe what those differences are in products. If you don't have the authority from digital PR, from link building, from Trustpilot, from reviews to then give these LLMs confidence to serve you, you're looking at the browser history, you're looking at location history, you're looking at how people have prompted those chats before. If you don't have that content on your website that accurately describes how good your product is, who's it good for, why is it good, the fabric, the features, the care, the sustainability, well, you're not doing your bit to try and educate, well, the customer and LLMs and Google as to how good your product is, because the way of searching is changing from just that one keyword to now a longer form question, query, conversation prompt that is so specific to you, Oliver, me, whoever. And that's where content is still king, authority is still king, and the basic of SEO is still there. Like, if you don't have a website that works and the user experience isn't great, these LLMs aren't going to be able to crawl it properly. So the fundamentals are still there, but we're seeing the way of search change.
I think you made one very good point there I want to emphasize, and it's that you really have to pack your website, your content with facts, with substance, with facts and figures. So we have quite a few customers who come to us and they've done a lot of these upper funnel blog posts, like keyword optimized, that has traditionally, that's been a good way of driving upper funnel traffic, and then you kind of retarget, etc. Right? This type of content mostly gets ignored by AI, right? So it's quite useless for AI. Product pages with a lot of facts and figures, for example, very good. Or blog posts that are very, like, again, give an overview of the market. You've probably all seen these kind of listicles where people are comparing themselves against other brands and doing it in a kind of neutral way. And the reason people are doing that is because that actually works, at least for now. I think that will change. LLMs are going to get smart enough to see past it. And I think Google is probably ahead of that curve, right? But it still remains that, like, you need to really, much more than ever before, focus on substance.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you mentioned the tactics, and there's kind of the old adage that marketers ruin everything, right? In terms of, listicles work now, but we'll find a way to game the system and ensure that in 6 months they don't work because they're a spam signal or whatever else. It's interesting you talk about the fundamentals, because a lot of it, in terms of the way people are searching, moving from red dress in Google into giving your height, I guess, and other variables in terms of that dress, and a really rich search, that you're typing into the LLMs. Is there a case to be made of it is better to be niche, it's better to really know who you are in terms of just being more out there? Because a lot of brands struggle. They try and sell to everyone, right? So is it going back to those fundamentals of really appealing to a distinct set of people, or do you feel?
It's positioning, right? That's what it is. And
Mhm.
it's critical for this because that's LLMs are going to position you in the market whether you want to or not, right? So the question is, are you actively helping them position you the way that you want to be positioned, or are they going to do it for you and end up with something where you won't like how you're being framed? And the good thing is, like, if you are consistent with your positioning, it's like 100-year-old principle of communication that hasn't changed, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, T, that brings us to nicely to another poll question, which is, have our audience checked how their business shows up in AI search like ChatGPT? It was interesting with the last poll that, 45% of people said that fundamentally over the last 12 months, they've changed their approach to search, Mm. which is interesting when talking to you guys, you're going fundamentally not loads has changed. Obviously that there are nuances there. But what I'd like to dig into is what's working for your clients right now. What you mentioned listicles and comparison pages and product pages. What are you specifically advising your clients right now? What's coming up regularly that you feel would be important to share?
For us, it's understanding more about the brand. So as Oliver touched on just previously, that brand should have never gone away, but I think there's been more of a focus on brand, who you're trying to target, who you're trying to go after, because you can't market to everyone. If you try and make friends with everyone, you make friends with no one. So it's understanding your customer, understanding how they would search, and then crafting your content, collection pages, product pages, or from a service business, your service pages, your sector pages and industry pages, and how you structure that to speak directly to who you're targeting as the way of search becomes more and more personalized. So for us, what's working is still cleaning up the website, making sure it runs well and it's a great user experience. From an e-commerce perspective, collection pages, and not just creating them willy-nilly, but doing the research and understanding how people search, because those will be driving commercial terms, and then the structure of those collection pages. Then, as product pages get shown more and more in LLMs, how's our structure of our product pages? What information, what content do we have on there? And then from a service-based perspective, looking at what does your service actually do? The who, what, when, where, why, how good, who's it good for, who's it not good for? And then how good your service is for certain industries that you want to target. So you can specifically speak to those roles, industries, whomever you're trying to target, about how good your service sort of is. So for us, it's still probably getting technical SEO, yes, but getting better on the commercial understanding of the business, matching up those SEO tasks with what they need to achieve commercially. And then looking at, from an e-com perspective, better collection pages, better product pages, and information architecture. Yes, content, making a blog content, FAQs better. And then from a service-based perspective, same again. How can we improve your service pages, your sector pages, and overall content to be more specific, talk about the variables, talk about who you're really trying to target rather than just fluffy, willy-nilly. Because if you just do AI content, or if you just talk fluffy, well, what's the difference between your business versus anyone else? Why is Google and AI mode and AI search going to pick you if everyone's just doing the same thing? And then you go on your sales calls, you try and build a community as an e-com, or you're on your socials going, we're special, we're great. It's like, well, are you? Because you're just doing the same thing as everyone else. So that's where brand also comes into it.
Yeah, for sure. Over to you, Oliver. HeyAmos, what are you seeing right now? I appreciate it's a kind of um, different approach, right? But are there kind of certain clients you're seeing just absolutely blossom
Yeah,
with the
I mean,
changes?
the ones who do well, right? Like, we have like a quite wide variety of customers, both like brands, but actually also agencies, including PR agencies, who are having a renaissance moment because suddenly the skill set that they've had all along is now very valuable in terms of influencing AI answers, and they are waking up to that fact, and they're coming to us with this, which we're happy about, obviously. But I think the common denominator of the customers of ours who do well is they run high frequency experiments. And because AI search is all about finding patterns, right? And you only find patterns if you do run high velocity experiments at scale, and then you can analyze what works, right? And the reason for that is that LLMs are not deterministic, they are probabilistic. That's basically a pretentious way of saying it, that there's some variation to the answers. And only by running the answers many times at scale and then running experiments many times at scales, then you will start seeing the pattern. Okay, when we do this type of listicle, we get this type of result. When we add these type of FAQ boxes to all our product pages, we get this type of result. When we get an earned media mention, AI Overviews picks it up first. That tends to be a pattern, for example. It seems to pick up news media faster. So there's certain overarching patterns, and then for each brand, you get to those, okay, what works for us in this space, in this market, by running these experiments and then getting that feedback loop. So we are building a platform to help with that, to give people a shortcut into that, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, having used HeyAmos, obviously it gives you a bit of a educated insight into, I guess, the experiments you should run first, right? In terms of what you should be doing theoretically to.
Yes. So that actually, thanks for the setup. That I should have said that myself, but
I'm here for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So that's what we do, right? We have our platform actually runs on a team of AI agents that does the analysis and comes up with 5 to 10 priority actions every week based on the data. And then if you run those actions next week, it will learn from the impact of those. Or if they didn't work, it will learn from that as well. So it becomes this kind of flywheel thing where it compounds.
I think that's important because, and the reason I put that out there is because a lot of people are probably thinking, I don't have the time or the bandwidth to run experiments, right? I kind of if you have a good understanding of your ideal clients, you kind of vaguely know what events they attend, what publications they read, what podcasts they listen to an extent. And actually you just go after those, right? But there's a lot more to it, right? What both of you are saying. And, Anthony, from the foundations up, even some of the bigger brands we work with, that they're still cloudy on who their ideal clients are, who they're trying to sell to, actually, where they should spend their time, where they should spend their budget. So it's really, really interesting to hear you talk about that. In terms of tactics, we mentioned listicles. I hear FAQs mentioned a lot, put them on the site, all of that good stuff. In terms of tactics you've seen that are maybe like absolute myths or people shouldn't touch because it's actually damaging. Are there anything you're seeing right now where you just slap your forehead and you're like, it's the LinkedIn bros embarrassing themselves?
All this kind of really niche technical stuff tends to be rubbish.
Yeah, okay.
Because it comes down to the information that you're feeding the LLMs, and the LLMs are, they're used to feeding off the internet, right? So you have a bit of a clunky website, they will overcome that part, right? As long as you're feeding them substantial information. So all these small technical things that people talk about are usually quite pointless.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would ignore most of that, to be honest.
Yeah. It's also the context of your business. So if you are a smaller business, you just need to focus on the fundamentals. What we've seen in this last year or two is everyone wants to do everything yesterday. And speaking specifically about the UK market, it's not exactly great. The economy's no good. Marketing's copying it. Brands are copying it. Government's not our friend. So what does that do? Makes people make decisions from a worse, a bad
And you're out of the
place.
World Cup as well.
And out of the World Cup, right?
Terrible.
So
that's the worst bit of it all.
Exactly. So businesses are trying to prioritize because they're coming from a place of fear because their budgets are getting tighter. So then they're trying to make decisions from a high time preference, instant gratification. We need impact now because everything else is copping it. So this is where it's hard to do when you're trying to make sales, do this, do that. But focusing on the fundamentals, trying to have a bit of that medium to long-term viewpoint on channels like SEO, even with LLMs now becoming more and more of a thing, they're still going to be prioritizing people with authority, people with content, people who are doing the right thing. So what we've seen is the programmatic SEO type scams from a year or two ago where people just spamming content. And it's well, that'll work for a little bit. The listicles I've seen where I'm I'll put myself as top GEO expert. And then LLM ChatGPT shows me as top GEO expert. There's other gray hat or black hat things that I've done, which a lot of businesses shouldn't need to do. That's more for to be honest, that's more for the casino, tobacco, adult sort of world where it's just that's basically the world that they play in. But for a lot of, e-com, regular tech, medical, these types of businesses, just don't get think about who you're trying to target. Think about your customer. Think about what you are as a brand and a business. Your content, your service pages, the way you show up online, people read that, they get an impression of your business. If you're just doing spammy shit, dodgy stuff, terrible content, well, that's a reflection on you. And the other point is what a lot of people are doing is they'll prompt, everyone thinks that AI is a god. So they'll pump in like, make me 1,000-word blog on Claude. But it's garbage in, garbage out. A lot of these people don't know what they're doing and they don't know what good is, but they think it's a god going, oh, I've got a blog. Great. Post it. Because there's no actual, and this probably gets into a larger conversation of like AI and the dystopian nature of it. But it's just like, if you don't know what good is, and you've got people just using Claude, using these machines without understanding the fundamentals, well, you're just going to garbage in, garbage out. And then when the website tanks or your ads tank or the social content looks no good, you're like, oh, what happened? It's like, yeah, well, what'd you expect? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And that's why marketers still have a role, right? Because it's taste and judgment. If you want the best results from an LLM for copywriting, use a copywriter. If you want it for design, use a designer. It's still true, right? It just allows them, maybe empowers them to work a little bit faster. But actually, we're seeing the same, right? If you put it in a layman's hands, they don't know what good looks like. And that's a big problem. So, I mean, you've kind of mentioned it, AI generated content, views on it.
I have a little, I don't know if it's contrarian or like, we'll find out, right? But I think for me, the debate isn't whether you use AI or not. It's a bit like saying, hey, I wrote this on a typewriter or a computer, right? Or I looked my facts up in the library, or when I went to school, that was like you were supposed to go to the library and look facts up in books, then you did it properly, right? If you used Wikipedia, then that was cheating. Like that's how old I am.
I remember
But like
those days.
for me, that's not really the debate. The debate is like, if you generate content with AI the right way and you feed it all the context, you make it a multi-step process instead of a one-shot prompt. Like that's a trick to AI, right? If you break it, that's why AI agents, why everyone talks about AI agents, right? If you write one prompt and get an output, that's always going to be weaker than if you have 10 agents that break down your task into a lot of little steps, and they are all like one specialist on a team. So we do have our own content agent at HeyAmos, right? But it's actually, again, it's designed that way. So it breaks it down into multiple steps. So one does the research, one pulls the brand context, one drafts the outline, another one checks the SEO and the GEO kind of elements, structure of the page, another one writes the text, and then another one reviews it, etc. Right? Because then it's more about the process and using it the right way than are you using AI or not? For me, that's secondary.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the thing that AI generated content misses, and this is our philosophy at Noteworthy and why we've built Noteworthy, is that original human insight. So that, those ideas, those opinions that experts have right now that the LLMs can't quite match, right? And also fundamentally going back to making it uniquely you and uniquely about your brand, you kind of do need the human perspective, right?
Yeah,
I would say from the
because,
founder or the head of product or whoever it is.
Yeah, because LLMs are always looking to the past, right? They are being trained on what's already there. So they will never, I don't know about never, but like the way they function right now is that they won't be able to, they can't look into the future and come up with something truly original, because that's the system has that built-in limitation.
Yeah. And if you guys were starting from scratch, so, in our first poll, a few people answered that they don't have a strategy, in terms of search. What would your first actions be?
What does your business do? What do you want to do? What's the commercial? What are the goals? What's the why of the business? Because sometimes the website might not be the priority right now. You just started the business. You need to go out there and sell and build your network, and you might get some word of mouth, and then gives you time to then you're still doing delivery and you're on the tools. So it just depends the situation, the why, and what are your goals, and then you can that overarching why and what you want to do, where do you want your life to be, big questions, but you still need to think about it if you're starting from scratch, and then go, all right, that should then set the tone for then you making those decisions. Sometimes the website is easier because you can do it yourself these days. It's so like WordPress is still around, AI tools are still around, Squarespace, Drake, like there's easy ways to sort of do it now versus years ago. So that's an easy way to then do it. So for me, it's always, what's the why? Where you're starting from? What do you want to do? Website is an easy, cheaper, theoretically, channel to build, but SEO takes time. So you need to then get deals in the door. So then you figure out networking or paid ads or other bits and pieces. But I always start with the why and what for.
Nice. In terms of time, how if you start playing the game properly, how long is it going to take you to see results? If you went and you start appearing in the media, you're doing other good stuff, producing the right content, get your website sorted out. What's the time frame?
I think the fun thing about AI search is that it is a lot faster than SEO for now.
Okay.
If everyone's doing it really well in 2 years' time, right? It will also probably slow down. But right now, if you publish a new piece of content and you do it with all the craft so that it's fully optimized for AI, typically an LLM will pick it up into 1 to 3 weeks, and they will start using that as a source. And the more they use it as a source, generally the more you will be recommended in answers. So I'd say 2 to 4 weeks, if you run these high frequency experiments, you will start seeing something happen. And that's the fun part, because then you have some evidence and then you can double down.
Yeah, for sure. And Anthony, you made a really interesting point. You mentioned authority. And a word that keeps coming up for us is trust, right? So trust in the age of AI, if there's how do we discern between what's human generated, AI generated? But in terms of building that authority, we've mentioned media relations. Other platforms, Oliver, you've just run a webinar around Wikipedia. You've got YouTube. Appearing on podcasts has always been one that apparently is really good. What are the sort of levers people can pull that are going to help them? If maybe you can go to a PR agency, but what would you do in that instance?
So from a website perspective, you're going to be looking at obviously your blog content, your About Us page, your team pages, individual team pages, author bios, basically thinking of it as your own LinkedIn and Wikipedia on your own website to shout out about your qualifications, education, bio, bit of that. All right. That should be standard. When you look at something like Healthline or WebMD, you can see the qualifications, the editorial team, the process. They're really shouting out about how they do their content, who their doctors are, all of that, because they want to tell Google and bring trust to the users, saying, hey, these are real doctors that know their stuff. So that's website, and as part of that, reviews, social proof, Google reviews, Trustpilot, Yotpo, reviews.io. You might be on directories if you're in the trades. So you might be on a Checker Trade and reviews there. You might be on, if you're a hotelier or in the travel, you might be on an Expedia or Booking.com where they'll have reviews and you'll see the actual user generated content from the reviews there. So that's part of it. Other things are going to be traditional link building, digital PR, traditional PR. Yeah, being on podcasts and being able to shout out about that and then splitting up that content to then put on socials, put on TikTok, put on Instagram, put on YouTube Shorts, 100%. Because in this day and age, it's not the 1970s anymore. It's not radio, TV, print, and film. There are so many ways to try and build a business, attract an audience, attract customers. The hard part is, where do you start, or where are your customers looking for your business or your product? So then you double down there. LinkedIn, building an authority on LinkedIn. So it's hard, like it's how long's a piece of string, but also if you're in a service-based business, you're going to be doing SEO, AI search, you're going to be doing probably some traditional PR, you're going to be having a presence on LinkedIn, let's say, but you also might be a bit different and smash socials because your competitors aren't doing that. If you're the number one legal guy on TikTok, hey, what? But my clients aren't on TikTok. Yeah, but that's a channel that builds authority that can then draw people in and builds awareness builds awareness about you, your business, builds a platform that you can speak to potentially millions of people. But an old school business owner would be like, nah, I don't need TikTok because I don't actually have the understanding as to what it can do or where it fits in the sort of marketing funnel. So that's what I'd say. There's a lot of things to do, but yeah, Oliver.
Yeah, for AI search, like a good place to start is to just where is AI finding its information for your industry, right? There's this misconception that it's always pulling from Reddit and Wikipedia, and like,
Yeah.
actually there's a lot that's not true. And because we've looked at the account, all kinds of accounts, all kinds of industries, geographies, right? So for a private bank, for example, it's not checking Wikipedia, it's checking SEC filings, it's checking industry awards, it's checking your own website on your kind of term sheets, right? It'll even find PDFs where you have your like the fine print, right? It's not checking Reddit. So don't optimize for Reddit if you're a private bank, right? If the data isn't telling you to do that.
Yeah.
If you're running a big consumer brand, probably Reddit is going to play a part, right? You probably have a Wikipedia page that's influencing the results. So look into that. So you really have to start from the data, because the data will tell you quite quickly where to focus.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, that kind of Anthony's blue ocean approach, play where others aren't, but also playing where your ideal customers actually are, right? So having an understanding of them is, again, fundamental. But it's really interesting, the Reddit point, because I've seen a lot about Reddit having a lot of problem with the AI generated, you know, people gaming it. Again, is kind of marketers ruin everything. It's kind of, you know, it's, and also you're building on borrowed land, right? Is the other thing to think about, I guess, for the audience, is that if you are building on platforms where, you know, algorithms change, Google changes, you see Google updates over the years, and it kind of sends seismic shocks through the, you know, various sectors. So I think it's maybe having a balanced strategy is pretty useful, you know, not putting all your eggs in one basket. Would that be fair to say?
It's always good advice. But, you know, the borrowed land thing is unfortunate, but that's just the game as well, because you have to go, as a marketer, you have to go where your audience is, where you can find your audience. That's the, you know, that was my starting point for HeyAmos. As a marketer, I was looking at, okay, the audience has shifted over to AI search, but me as a marketer, I don't know how to get there and meet them. So then it's just my own curiosity of how to solve this problem that led to actually starting a business around it. So, I mean, yes, you're going into borrowed land. The ground will shift underneath your feet, but to my mind, also, you don't have that much of a choice, right? If that's where your audience is that if that's how your audience finds you, you have to be there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. What I want to do now is open the floor to questions from the audience, if that's okay. So, T, if we're capable of fielding a few, I know we've got one already from Vimal. Are we then saying that the new era of search or discoverability is more marketing than the technical aspects of search?
In a way, yes. And you mentioned like TV and radio, and actually I think there's a parallel to this, right? Because the way marketing worked back in those days, you know, so I'm told, is that, you know, someone watched an ad on TV or heard a jingle on the radio and then went to the store and bought that product. And the principle here is the same, right? We used the last 20 or 25 years, speaking of marketers ruined everything, right? But the marketing has become more like engineering, and we have this illusion that it works like engineering, even if that's not really true either, right?
Yeah.
But the fundamentals of marketing is like people should hear about you and think about you, and then when they're ready to go buy something, you should be top of mind. So AI search is fundamentally that. It's not, the annoying thing is like if you're a digital marketer, which I am as well, is you can't just track lots of traffic and then place lots of cookies and retarget people and do all of these things, right? That's all going out the window. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that, yes, I agree with the question from Vimal.
Yeah. So yeah, you're focusing less on the technical aspects, but I mean, Anthony, how important, you know, you mentioned a good website is so important. So there are technical aspects to that, right? In terms of site speed and, you know, all of that stuff, I'm guessing.
Yeah, all that's still important, but like, because with AI and things changing, you should be able to get a lot of that done quicker. Again, caveat to that, depending on your business and your team, and if the team can actually allow things to get done, or you're willing to pay a dev to actually get it done. But the technical aspects are still there. You know, the engine still needs to run well. It might look good on the outside, but if the engine's not running, we're not going anywhere. And so, yeah, a lot of those technical things are still important, but they should be getting better as technology improves. a lot of those issues that were once really big 5-10 years ago should be cleaned up much quicker or less prevalent because of the frameworks and platforms that we're building on, like Shopify and things like that these days. So yeah, technical still key, but as the world goes on, will you have as much hullabaloo about it? Probably not. But again, caveat to that, if you're an ASOS, yeah, technical is bloody important, because if the website doesn't work, you're losing millions a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point around ASOS. Next question from Donovan. How do I actually check whether ChatGPT or Perplexity is recommending my business?
You can come to us and use HeyAmos.
There you go.
There you go.
There are other products available as well.
Don't need to say that. That's fine.
But so one question we get a lot is like, can't I just prompt ChatGPT myself, right? And there's two reasons why that it'll be hard to get like data doing it like that. One is that it has a lot of context about you and it already knows where you work in most cases. So that will already color the answer a lot. The second thing is that asking once and getting an answer once is not definite. I said this snooty thing that LLMs are not deterministic, they're probabilistic. So if you run the same question 10 times, for example, that's when you start understanding if you show up 4 times or 5 times or none at all, or 10 out of 10 times. That's when you're actually starting to understand if AI is recommending your brand.
Awesome. Sorry, Anthony, were you going to add?
No, mate, go check out HeyAmos. But yeah, people, if you just keep spamming your business name into ChatGPT, they're going to keep recommending you. So yeah, but also on the caveat on that is, what is important to the business? Where are most of your customers coming from? If most of them are coming from paid ads or social or SEO, and there's like 3 people coming through AI search, where do you then spend a lot of your time and effort as well?
That's a
But
great
yeah,
point.
And that's what we're finding a bit as well. It's like, I need to get on top of AI search. Like, yeah, like, look, the tools always change. The tools always continue to develop as these platforms change. And then you got like 3 people to hit your website, which most likely is probably going to be your own team that came from AI search. But we're coming up on AI search. Like, again, zoom out a bit. What are the priorities? Where is the business at? Where are the customers coming from? Especially as people are trying to judge their budgets or priorities, or they don't have the internal marketing resource to get things done as well.
Yeah. I think it goes back to your point. If you're doing the fundamentals well, a lot of those things you've spoken about will fall into place, right? For a lot of businesses, it makes you easier to refer if people can grasp what you do much quicker, much more easily. Your paid strategy is going to work much better if you have cleaner landing pages, better product messaging, all of that stuff. So yeah, I think the fundamentals point is super important. Question now from Mark. So this is coming from a media relations man. If I fix one thing on my website this week, what should it be?
Without getting too technical, if you're in a service-based business, I would be reviewing your service pages. Try and think as a customer and go, all right, do I have enough service pages to accurately detail what it is that I do? And then when I'm looking at those services pages and I'm looking at the flow of those services pages, does a customer clearly understand who I am, what I do, how good I am at doing it, what exactly I do, the who, what, when, where, why, how? I would say, and that's going to be driving your commercial terms, those service pages. That's probably the one thing. The other thing would be reviewing your title tags, if you can, which is easily done via a site search on Google, where you put site : your URL, or go and look at your Google Search Console, which is a free tool, to then see then what technical issues you have and what keywords you're coming up for. They'll probably be the couple of things.
Nice.
B2B business.
Sage advice. Yeah. What about an ecom?
Ecom, similar process. It's going to be the homepage and looking at that, going, all right, what are basically the containers and structure that I've got on the homepage? And then again, what does my product do? Who does it serve? So I can have just dresses, but I could sell 15 different types of dresses. I could sell maxi, midi, floral, long, short. Do I have those collection pages, which will be doors for people to walk through on Google and AI search to find that exact category? So with ecom, it's usually collection pages to build, review versus competitors. And then you get into the actual structure of those pages.
I think one universal thing that like since we didn't define what type of website, right? But one universal thing that I've seen is like FAQs, right? Questions and answers, simple format. All the things that, people might ask AI about you or your industry, you put that, it can be the bottom of the homepage, it can be a separate page. LLMs don't really care about where you put this information, right? It doesn't have to be in the header or on the homepage, but like adding lots of FAQs for the type of things that people will ask AI is like an easy thing, and it works for pretty much everyone if you do it the right way, I'd say.
Nice. And I think that's all of the questions from the audience. One final thing from me, guys. Do you have a prediction on where search will be in 12 months from now? Are we going to see any fundamental changes? Or is it going to be much of a muchness?
I think we're still going to be in a hybrid phase, which is what I would define where we are right now, where most people are using a mixture of traditional and AI search, and kind of depends what you look for, right? If you're doing research, if you have a more complicated question, you will use AI. And even if you input that into Google the old-fashioned way, it will push you into AI these days as well. If you're, but we're going to be in a hybrid phase where it's not like agents are going to run. There's this mad vision, right, where agents are running everything and they have our credit card and they go out and make, I don't think we're going to be there at 12 months.
No, that'll take a bit more time.
Not.
No, that'll take a bit more time. Google's rolling things out after the latest Google I/O event a month or so ago. You'll see some of those changes roll out in the US first, like people can have a chat. So the search box is changing and it'll be dynamic and generated. So depending on the search, might show images or videos or as it goes on. But you'll see things with like trying to book a restaurant. You can do it within the actual search rather than bouncing out to 7 rooms or whatever. It's actually in there. And then they're like, oh, but agents are doing the booking. It's like, yeah, you're still prompting it though. Like still a human actually doing it. The AI agent's not going to turn up to the restaurant, are they? So
maybe they will.
Maybe they will. Who knows, right? We'll send Boston Dynamics over there.
In Stockholm, there's a cafe being run by AI agents, famously.
Is there?
Oh, it's a bit of a stunt.
Yeah. It sounds a bit PR to me.
Yeah. But in 12 months' time, you'll see Google continually test things. People will continue to use Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT. The big question is, will OpenAI actually be a functioning company with the cash that they're burning in 12 months, the way they're going? But Claude and Anthropic seem to be dominating. The other interesting thing is, I did a post not too long ago because I was reading about Brave Browser and how this is the actual flip side of forcing people into AI overviews, is that when people just want a simple answer and Google gives them a full-length AI overview, we've seen people download and use Brave Browser a bit more because they can choose whether they get AI results or not. And people just get annoyed. It's like, I just want the weather. Just tell me. I don't want it's like when you get the recipes and everyone put like 4 million words and I just want the recipe. So we're seeing a bit of that.
Marketers ruining recipes.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in things like Brave Browser or behaviors change as people get force-fed AI. They just want a simple answer. Give me the score. Give me the weather. I don't need to know the solar system and Galileo. Just tell me what the weather is. So you'll see, I think they'll always go too far before they'll pull it back.
That's essentially the hybrid thing, right?
Yeah.
Which I think most people want some kind of hybrid version of.
Yeah. Give them options.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you very much, guys. I think that was super informative. I certainly learned a lot. Thank you for your time. And that brings us to the end of today's session. So thank you to Tristan as well for running everything so smoothly. And thank you to the audience for attending. We'll follow up with putting this on YouTube. So we'll send out a full recording. So don't worry if you miss parts of it. And thank you again. Over to you, T.